It was a suicide mission: sail into the heart of the Japanese fleet's main anchorage and pick a fight. But Commander Samuel Dealey didn't just survive, he decimated the enemy. The USS Harder sent shockwaves through the Imperial Navy, sinking 5 destroyers in a single patrol and forcing an entire fleet to flee in panic. This is the heart-pounding true story of the 79 men who hunted the wolves and became legends of the silent service. In the murky, high-stakes theater of World War II submarine warfare, there was a cardinal rule that every commander knew by heart: you do not fight a destroyer. The logic was cold and absolute. A submarine was a slow, stealthy ambusher, designed to prey on lumbering cargo ships and tankers. The destroyer, conversely, was the wolf, fast, agile, armed with sonar and depth charges, and built for the singular purpose of hunting submarines. For an American sub to be caught by a Japanese destroyer was, more often than not, a death sentence. Between the onset of the war in 1941 and the spring of 1944, Japanese destroyers had successfully sent 14 American submarines to the bottom of the Pacific. In that same time frame, the number of destroyers sunk by submarines in head-to-head combat was 0. The disparity in speed and firepower was simply too great. The standing doctrine for American skippers was clear: if a destroyer spots you, you dive deep, rig for silent running, and pray. But in 1944, one man decided that the rules were meant to be broken. His name was Commander Samuel David Dealey, and he didn't just fight the wolf, he hunted it. The Man of Steel. To understand the sheer audacity of the USS Harder's achievements, one must first understand its skipper. Samuel Dealey was 37 years old, a Naval Academy graduate with a calm, scholarly demeanor that belied a core of pure steel. He had cut his teeth under the legendary Mush Morton on the USS Wahoo, learning that aggression and surprise were weapons as potent as any torpedo. By the time he took command of the Gato-class USS Harder, Dealey was ready to rewrite the naval playbook. He pioneered a tactic so reckless it was barely considered a theory: the down-the-throat shot. Instead of fleeing from a charging destroyer, Dealey would turn his submarine directly toward the enemy, closing the distance at flank speed. He would wait until the destroyer was nearly on top of him, sometimes as close as 900 yards, before firing a spread of torpedoes straight into the enemy's bow. Then, he would crash dive, hoping to pass safely under the burning wreckage. It was a game of chicken played with thousands of tons of steel and high explosives. Into the hornet's nest. In May 1944, the Pacific War was reaching a fever pitch. Admiral Somu Toyota, commander of the Japanese Combined Fleet, had gathered the largest concentration of naval power since Midway at a remote anchorage called Tawi Tawi in the Sulu archipelago. This massive armada, including the super battleship Yamato and 9 aircraft carriers, was poised to crush the impending American invasion of the Marianas. American codebreakers knew the fleet was there, and Admiral Charles Lockwood, commander of the Pacific Submarine Force, knew exactly who to send to disrupt them. He deployed Samuel Dealey and the USS Harder to the waters around Tawi Tawi with simple orders: get into the hornet's nest and cause chaos. For days, Dealey lurked in the shadows, charting fleet movements. But on June 6, 1944, the same day Allied troops were storming Normandy, his luck ran out. A patrol plane spotted the feather of his periscope wake. The alarm was raised, and the hunt was on. 4 days of fury. What followed was the most successful anti-destroyer patrol in naval history. On the morning of June 6, the destroyer Minazuki led a hunter-killer group straight for the Harder. Instead of diving, Dealey turned his bow toward the charging ship. As the range closed to point blank, and sonar pings rang frantically through the hull, Dealey waited. At just 750 yards, he fired 3 torpedoes. Seconds later, the Minazuki was torn apart by massive explosions and sank in minutes. Dealey had drawn first blood. But he wasn't finished. The next night, June 7th, the Harder surfaced under the cover of darkness. The destroyer Hyanami, one of the ships that had fled the previous engagement, was returning to base. Dealey, spotting the enemy on radar, decided to attack on the surface. Racing to beat the destroyer's detection ring, he fired 4 torpedoes from 2,300 yards. The Hyanami was struck amidships, her stern blown completely off. She sank stern first, taking her commander and 147 sailors with her. Dealey had now sunk 2 destroyers in 24 hours, right on the doorstep of the main Japanese fleet. Admiral Toyota was incandescent with rage. He stripped escorts from vital convoys and organized dedicated hunter-killer groups with one mission: kill the American submarine. On June 9th, Dealey faced his greatest test. He surfaced to find 4 destroyers steaming in a line-abreast search formation, actively pinging for him. It was a trap. With only 8 torpedoes left, Dealey targeted the second destroyer in the line, the Tanakaze. As the ship turned toward him, he fired a spread of 3 torpedoes. All 3 hit. The destroyer didn't just sink, it disintegrated, debris flying 300 feet into the air. The remaining destroyers, blind with fury, converged on the harder, dropping dozens of depth charges in a bone-jarring assault that lasted hours. But Dealey, the master of evasion, slipped away once again. The strategic victory. Dealey's rampage had consequences far beyond the loss of ships. In just 4 days, he had sunk or heavily damaged 5 destroyers. Admiral Ozawa, fearing that the Tawi Tawi anchorage was now a death trap, swarming with American subs, panicked. He ordered the mobile fleet to depart the anchorage 6 days ahead of schedule. This hasty departure was disastrous. The Japanese fleet arrived in the Philippine Sea unorganized, with pilots who hadn't finished their training and aircraft low on fuel. When they met the American carriers, the result was the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. American pilots shot down nearly 400 Japanese planes while losing only 30 of their own. The backbone of Japanese naval aviation was broken forever, a victory made possible in large part because one submarine commander had terrified the enemy into making a fatal mistake. The final patrol. Samuel Dealey returned to Australia a legend, awarded the Navy Cross and credited with saving countless lives. But the war wasn't over. On August 24, 1944, during the Harder's 6th War Patrol off the Philippines, the hunters finally cornered the destroyer killer. While coordinating an attack with another American sub, the USS Hake, the Harder was ambushed by a Japanese escort vessel, CD-22. As Dealey crash-dived to escape, a pattern of depth charges bracketed the submarine perfectly. The explosions ruptured the pressure hull, and the USS Harder plunged to the bottom of the sea with all 79 hands. A legacy of valor. The loss of the Harder was a devastating blow to the submarine force, but Dealey's legacy was already secured. He was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor, presented to his widow, Edwina, on the White House lawn. His aggressive, down-the-throat tactics became standard doctrine, empowering other commanders to turn the tide against their tormentors. By the war's end, American submarines had sunk 38 Japanese destroyers. Today, the story of the USS Harder serves as a poignant reminder of the price of freedom. These men, farm boys, factory workers, and college graduates, volunteered for the most dangerous duty in the Navy. They knew the odds, yet they sailed into the dark anyway. Commander Dealey and his crew didn't just break the rules of war. They redefined courage, proving that even in the face of overwhelming odds, the hunter can become the hunted.